Okay. We interrupt this podcast for a podcast. Just kidding. There's no interruptions. It's another episode of the Tomato Pulpit. Welcome.
Sweet. Feels good to be here.
I'm your host, Tomato Pulpit. This is the Tomato Pulpit.
I'm your host, Tomato Pulpit.
Yeah, I know. I just said it.
Okay. Smooth.
No, I'm the host today, Mike Tomato.
Tom Sofa right here.
That's that
co-host.
guy, in case you forgot. Coming to you live from Oak Park, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So, today...
If you're tuning into the YouTube and you see me glancing at my notes, that's because I don't have that many notes and I'm using Google for some fun facts.
It's because we come to this podcast prepared.
Yeah.
We come to this place for preparedness.
True that.
So, today, on this lovely Friday, summer, it's not summer.
And it's Friday the 13th.
It is. Happy Friday the 13th.
You were so excited by that.
I love that.
Now you're down to go get food.
No.
Oh, keep going.
But, happy Friday the 13th, everybody.
Yeah, feels happy.
So, on today's episode...
Guess I'll be getting food alone.
Your life is so tragic. There's
going.
never been
Go.
a bigger struggle in your life.
Jesus Christ, go ahead.
Anyway, today, I wanted to talk about something very near and dear to my heart.
Yep.
To my constitution. Mm-hmm. That is the country that I live in, and not only my bowels, the Supreme Court. That is what I told you to just ready up on.
Well,
you didn't have to do any research. You didn't have to do anything. I just ready up.
You just told me that was the topic.
And I guess before I go in to the court, because I'm going to give you, I assumed when I was preparing this that we're going to need just base knowledge.
Yes, I don't know numbers.
We can't go...
If you're trying to hit me with numbers...
I'm not going to hit numbers or anything, but stories and history. There's levels to it. So today's episode, I'm just going to feed you some information about the Supreme Court, its backstory, its current position of where we're at.
Good thing I'm hungry.
And then we can get into some fun stories, maybe some fun cases. But those will be for later episodes. And then eventually we will talk about the Federalist Society and how dark money has influenced the judicial system in the United States. But today...
Yep, one day.
On this happy Rainbow Sunshine Friday the 13th, we're going to talk about the Supreme Court.
Let's do it.
What do you know about the Supreme Court? Just right off the bat, what do you know about her?
I know that Samuel Chase is the only Supreme Court justice to have been impeached.
Okay.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know some other things. I know that William Rehnquist, who was, the former Chief Justice.
You're right.
He designed his own Supreme Court robes.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did not know Rehnquist.
So why'd you just affirm it? You didn't know that.
I'm here to help.
And you know what was kind of cool about those robes that he created was they were inspired by a theatrical production. I don't know which one. I only know so much knowledge.
Yeah.
But
couldn't do that much research on that one.
That I do know.
Okay. Probably 12 Angry Men.
I kind of doubt it. I bet it was something like out of the pocket. Just
you think?
Based on how I know that person, I'm so into
Jesus
the
Christ
Supreme
Superstar.
Court. Could be. And then I also know about James Burns, he was briefly on the Supreme Court, but he didn't attend law school, which was kind of bizarre.
James Burns.
And still found his way on. Is that what it says? Yeah, James Burns.
On the United States Supreme Court.
No law school. James Burns, who served briefly on the court, was the last justice who didn't attend law school.
And what year was that?
I can't remember. This is just kind of something that I just generally know, but that was in 2013, I believe.
I believe it was before that, but
okay, when was it then?
I don't know, but it was not 2013. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll dive deeper, but you can go ahead.
Okay, great.
Oh, 1941.
1941. Great.
Close to 2013.
Great, love that.
In the grand scheme of
things. Who was the president in 1941, do you know?
40s. Jeez.
New Deal.
New Deal?
Think New Deal.
Dude, I was so bad at history.
Think,
should I say, I don't want to say
the
so
only
wrong.
thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Is it JFK? That's
close.
All I want to guess.
No, it's close.
Stupid. Just tell me. It's okay.
FDR.
Roosevelt.
FDR.
Fucking Roosevelt.
Yeah. Good old Risky Rosie.
I knew it was the 3-letter one.
Okay, so great facts.
Yeah, I mean,
Love that.
Those are the only things that I know. So treat me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Okay, cool. So let's start day one.
Yeah.
Constitution of the United States is drafted. We're now dealing with Article 3.
Okay.
Article 1 creates Congress. Article 2 is the executive. Article 3 is the judiciary.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we have the judges and justices and legal system that we have. It all starts with Article 3 and Article 6.
Okay.
Article 6 doesn't get a lot of love, but in my opinion, Article 6 is actually where a lot of the drama and conflama happens when it comes to like what the court actually does.
Okay.
Or like kind of like set the groundwork for it. So back in a very special time, I believe the date was 1789.
Okay.
Do you remember 1789? Do you
I
remember where you were? Do you remember what you were doing?
I was a speck of dust.
You don't remember where you were in 1789?
Speck of dust.
Oh, damn shame. Well, Congress had wrote the Judiciary Act
Okay.
of 1789.
All right.
Which essentially established the court system we have today. Back then, since all the states didn't exist, it created the 13 district courts. We now have 94 district courts, I believe. Illinois, where we live, I believe we're in the 7th Circuit, where Justice Amy Coney Barrett used to work before she became a current justice on the court. But that's another story for another day.
Fair.
So when the founders were drafting the Constitution, they created Article 3, just like the general founding and, you know, all that jazz. They didn't really have an idea of like what the court was going to do. It's a lot of like empty sentences and stuff.
Right.
They were just kind of like, yeah, there's going to be judges and things, but then Congress is really going to figure it out, hence the act. And then it was laws and later on where Congress really built out the court system.
Totally.
It's kind of fascinating that as these three separate but equal branches of government exist, the judiciary really wasn't given any rules like the first two were, like the president and the Congress.
Crazy.
So it's pretty interesting to think of. But Article 6 on the Constitution is really where we kind of get the idea that the Supreme Court is for judicial review. So is this law constitutional? Or we kind of get a court of appeals as well. So were people's rights violated?
Right.
Where, you know, and receive proper cause. Whatever.
Okay.
If I was to say, you're not going to, but I'm going to say it anyway. If I was to say Marbury versus Madison, does that ring any bells?
A little bit. Like, not like any clear bells.
Essentially, it was the first case that established the rule of the Supreme Court as like judicial review.
Okay.
It's essentially their job to be like, either you're in or you're out on the Constitution.
Okay.
Do you know how many justices sit on the Supreme Court?
My head tells me 9.
Good. Yeah, correct. 9.
Yeah.
Do you know how many justices started the Supreme Court?
My head says 7.
6.
Even numbers?
So close. 6. Well, actually, this is the tricky part. So there were 6 technically original justices. John Jay was the first Chief Justice appointed by
John Jingle.
Heimer Schmidt.
Exactly.
By George Washington, who was...
His name, well, go ahead.
George Washington.
Yeah, I know George. J-Dub.
Who was...
President? What am I trying to say?
The first president.
Okay.
That's it. I just wanted you to say he was the first president.
Well,
that's it.
A president.
He appointed John Jay.
Okay.
And as the rules go, how they get appointed, right? The president appoints and then the Senate confirms.
Okay.
This is under this idea of like advise and consent. That's how it's written in the Constitution. So there are 6 justices. John Jay is really the only name I wrote down. The other 6 aren't really that special. They're considered associate justices. If you're not the chief, you're the associates.
Okay.
The only difference between the chief and the associates is that the chief is just kind of like the figurehead at the moment. But they generally all have the same authority.
Interesting.
It's just the chief is generally looked at as like the face of the court in this time.
Yeah.
So you'll hear things where like the Roberts Court, the Warren Court. Those are eras of the Supreme Court defined by the chief at the time. So currently we're experiencing the Roberts Court because John Roberts is the Chief Justice. So we're in the Roberts Court. When Warren was the Chief Justice, it was the Warren's Court, and that's like during the civil rights stuff. That was the Warren Court era.
I'm in.
Yeah. So then in 1869...
Okay, don't remember that either.
Damn shame. It was a good time.
Still a speck of dust.
It was a fucking party in 1869. That's when a law was passed that established 9 concrete justices. So it was solidified. 9 justices.
Up to 9.
Always.
Okay.
Always.
Are you familiar with Justice Elena Kagan?
I am.
What do you know about her? You got a fun fact? Or tell me.
She was appointed by President Obama.
Okay.
Confirmed in the Senate with, I believe, a decent majority. She had never practiced law before she became a Supreme Court justice. She was just the Solicitor General, I believe, before that, but she was never a judge herself.
Okay.
Is she a lesbian? I don't know if she's a lesbian. She might as well be a lesbian.
That I don't know.
But yeah, that's my Lena Kagan.
Well, Google.
I think she went to Yale.
Well, Google gives her some credit.
Yeah?
Google credits her with getting the first ever frozen yogurt machine installed in the Supreme Court cafeteria.
That's lit. Way to go, Elena.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big deal.
No, that's huge. That's huge.
Otherwise, okay. That's how things get. This is the type of person that gets things done.
Elena
That's what I
Kagan.
like to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody I could get behind.
Elena Kagan.
Yeah.
Okay,
She got my vote.
We love Kagan. We love you, Kagan.
Wish I could have voted for her back in the day, but
Well, we don't vote justices in.
I wish I could have.
Actually, the judiciary, we don't get a direct vote at all.
I still wish I could have.
Judiciary, in the federal judiciary.
I wish I could have.
States, it's a little different. You can vote for a judge in certain states. In Illinois, we can vote for judges.
Okay, well, she gets my endorsement.
Love that. So she was the first with the ice cream.
First to get the.
Okay.
Well, it's frozen yogurt.
Frozen yogurt. Do you know for the longest time the Supreme Court didn't even have its own building?
I believe that. I believe that.
It was originally unhoused, and so the first session took place in New York City, and then after that there was some in Philly when the federal government briefly moved to Philly for a little bit.
Okay.
And then once they all moved to DC, the Supreme Court operated just out of the halls of Congress, and then even in the basement of the House, until I believe it was Taft who petitioned that the Supreme Court should have its own building.
He was a thicker president, wasn't he?
He's the guy that got stuck in the tub. That's him.
Classic.
Yeah. He was also a Supreme Court justice.
There you go.
He is a complicated man. I don't live for Taft, but whatever.
It'd be kind of weird if you did. Hope.
Okay. Anyway.
Chill.
Supreme Court justices. Do you know how long they serve on the court?
Don't they get to serve forever? Is it right?
Lifetime.
Until they die or
Lifetime, baby.
Step down?
Retire or death.
Yeah.
These are the only ways. Or
Right.
impeachment.
Yeah.
Or impeachment.
That's fucked up.
Which there's been a few impeachments in the court's history. I believe only 8 have been successful.
Okay.
But I'm not totally confident on that statistic right there. But whatever. There's been 17 chief justices and 102 associate justices.
Wow. Wonder who number 100 was.
That's
Crack
a
the
good question.
Crack the triple digit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Barrier.
I don't know. Okay, so can you name any of the current?
No. I'm not going to waste any time even thinking.
You could have, though. You could.
I'm not
You
gonna
know
cheat.
one. You just said her name.
Oh, Elena Kagan?
Yeah.
My girl.
She's a current justice on the court.
God. She's still cooking.
She's still cooking, doing
Love that.
great. She's a liberal stronghold.
Beautiful.
We need her. We need her.
Without her,
Okay.
how would we have Froyo?
How would we have Froyo?
I'm saying.
So I'm going to I think these are in order of appointment. I did my best. I'm just guessing. I could have Googled it, but I'm just guessing here.
Okay.
So the first justice that we should be aware of is Justice Clarence Thomas.
Okay. I like the name Clarence.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Personal opinion.
No, that's fine. I don't live for Clarence Thomas. I think he's a terrible person.
Yeah, he probably is.
He deserves an episode on his own. He's insane.
Oh.
He's friends with Nazis. He is incredibly corrupt. His mom's house is owned by a billionaire who like pays the rent. He allegedly committed sexual harassment, and it was blown up when he was in his confirmation hearing. Anita Hill, if you ever heard of the name Anita Hill.
Maybe.
She was an associate at, I believe, Thomas's firm, and she testified at his confirmation hearing that he had sexually harassed her. It's big hoopla.
I'm sure he did.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Anita Hill ran so the Kavanaugh witnesses could run, or Anita Hill walked so the Kavanaugh witnesses could run.
There you go.
But
That makes sense.
very much like a Monica Lewinsky type of experience, where this woman was publicly blasted for a political sex scandal that it was really not her fault in any
Of course
regard.
not.
But then the man, went on to bigger and better things. He was confirmed as the next justice at that time.
Yikes.
After Thomas, I believe it was Alito, appointed by, Thomas was appointed by Herbert Walker Bush, so Bush Sr. Oh my God, did my notes just get deleted?
You deleted the whole thing?
No.
Okay, good.
Okay. He was appointed by Bush Sr., and then Alito was appointed by Bush Sr. as well, I believe.
Oh.
Or no, Bush Jr.
There you go.
He's Bush Jr. Yeah, Alito was Bush Jr. Samuel Alito, he's conservative on the court. No bueno. Not a
course
fan. I'll get to some of the cases like briefly that I'll touch on. He wrote the ruling for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That's him. That's our guy.
Nice.
Sam.
Are you familiar with Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr.?
Yes.
Who is he?
Oliver Wendell Holmes
Tell me more.
Jr.
What do you know about him?
He's involved in the Supreme Court.
Huh. Well, he was the oldest to ever serve on the Supreme Court.
At how old?
90.
That's really fucking old.
That's real old. That's crazy.
Ruth was up there too.
You know who's the youngest?
It's recent, I believe.
Okay. Go ahead. Figure it out. I don't know if it's recent or not, but I know the answer.
I'm gonna guess. Is it Kavanaugh?
No. Joseph Story.
Oh, okay. No.
At the age of 32.
Wow, it's very young.
Yeah, could have been a while ago, though.
Very young
Could
for a
have been a real
Supreme
long
Court
time ago.
justice.
That's the
Okay.
thing. But go ahead. I got a couple more that I want to
I don't know if the
feed.
Supreme Court has an age limit. The presidency has an age limit.
Sure. I mean, 32. That's just so like I can't imagine in 4 years they're just like, yeah, and you'll sit in front of the Supreme Court and you'll be one of them.
Right.
No.
Right. Bold.
No.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe back in the day, there was a time when the court was like in limbo, where it was the era of like the 6 justices. Sometimes it would fluctuate. Sometimes there were 6 justices. Sometimes there was 7. Sometimes there was 10.
That's chill.
And
I
it
like
would
that.
just kind of do that.
I like that it's kind of open ended sometimes.
Only until 1869.
Well, I like. Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
Until it got crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alito. Now we're next is Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Love that.
Do we know anything about Sonia?
Definitely not.
Obama
personally.
appointee, liberal queen.
W.
Now this is your girl.
My girl.
Her name is
Is that Kagan?
Elena Kagan. Another Obama appointee, a liberal diva.
Yeah.
Neil Gorsuch. Oh, I forgot John Roberts. Whatever. Roberts is before Sotomayor. John Roberts.
Okay.
Bush Jr., Chief Justice.
Do you know who Justice Byron White is?
No.
AKA Byron Whizzer White? No? You don't know him
No.
by his nickname? The
No.
Whizzer?
I know the ride at Six Flags.
He's the only justice to ever be selected to the College Football Hall of Fame as well.
crazy.
Pretty cool.
Good to know.
Pretty cool. Not gonna lie.
So Neil Gorsuch, Colorado, Trump appointee. Brett Kavanaugh, Connecticut maybe? Massachusetts? East Coast prep frat boy, Trump appointee. Amy Coney Barrett from Indianapolis, or Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
She went to Notre Dame.
ND?
Yep, worked at the Seventh Circuit Court. Conservative doll. But has really kind of entered this weird like swing vote status, which doesn't give me rainbows and sunshine either way because she's still like a hardliner on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting to watch as she does pivot in some cases. And then lastly, but not least the most recent, our most junior justice is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Lit.
Liberal, Biden appointee.
Beautiful.
So we have a conservative supermajority on the court. We have a 6-3 conservative majority.
Yikes.
Big yikes. Especially when, I don't know, 4 out of the 6 are fucking degenerates.
Yikes.
When it comes to civil rights.
Double, triple yikes.
Yeah.
Bad news.
Yeah. Bad news bears. And we'll get into some of those cases because
Damn.
the real tea is like what's happening now. The court obviously hasn't had a beautiful past. Have you heard of Plessy v. Ferguson? It's a foundational case in the early days of the court. That was the separate but equal case. Do you know what separate but equal like that references?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which was overturned by Brown v. Board of Education.
I remember that. Yeah, we saw a play on that.
We did. Yes, we
That
did.
was a good play. I like that.
Yeah, it was a good play.
How old are we?
You were in elementary school.
You think so?
Or we were middle school?
I don't know.
Maybe 6th grade? 5th
Could
grade?
be a 6th grade thing or 5th grade. It feels like 6th grade though, maybe.
It was in...
Or 7th. Something middle school, I feel like. We didn't learn about that.
It was like at the Rosemont Theater, I'm pretty sure, too.
Yeah, it was cool. I did enjoy that.
Yeah, no, plays are great. So the court has a history of like shitty cases and overturning them with different cases. Plessy is the best example. There's some other ones.
Yeah.
But right now we're kind of experiencing a reversal of that, where our current like mega conservative court is overturning the good shit. Most recently, Roe.
Boo.
So I have about like five cases here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go like these can have episodes of their own. But I probably won't do most of them. I'm just gonna touch on them into like the general gist of what the outcome was, and then get your opinion on it.
Oh fuck. Okay.
Because that's why you're here. Why else are you here?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do these in kind of chronological order, although this one's not in chronological order, and I don't know why I wrote 2001 when it was 2010. Anyway.
Numbers are tough.
Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is a very important case in our lives and affects us actually a lot on a day-to-day basis. D.C. versus Heller. Washington, D.C. versus Heller. This was in 2008.
Okay.
This case happened due to a handgun ban that was implemented in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Then there was, I believe it was a special interest group who sued that said that this is against their Second Amendment rights to ban handguns in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the court decided in D.C. versus Heller that you have an individual right to guns in the United States. It is not a collective right. It's an individual right. And because of that ruling, that was when the assault weapons ban that like later led to the assault weapons ban law being removed.
Okay.
Which allowed AR-15s to spread like wildfire, which if we don't know, most of the mass shootings in the recent history of the United States have been because of AR-15s.
Totally.
It's literally trademarked as America's gun. And you always, and I have this debate with people who are pro-gun where it's like the AR-15, it's not a machine gun. You're right, it's not a machine gun. It's not an assault rifle, whatever, because it's not the MS-13 or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be.
I don't know guns like that.
The AR-15 is a civilian model of a military rifle.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a military rifle. It's like the MS-13 or something.
Sure.
No, that's a gang, but whatever. It's something, whatever. And then there's the civilian model that was released called the AR-15, and that is America's gun. It's essentially the same exact fucking gun. Maybe, I don't know, one nut is in a different location. I don't know.
Yeah,
either way, it's a fucking gun that's designed to kill people, and that's it. Yeah, DC versus Heller says you have every right, sugar, to have that gun. Yeah, love it.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, that's DC versus Heller was when a very important justice was on the court. His name was, as it escapes me, he was an Italian motherfucker. Him and Ruth Bader Ginsburg were really good friends. Scalia, Justice Antonin Scalia. He had a big part. I think he wrote the majority opinion in DC versus Heller.
You mind if I share a little bit about a little story about guns that I read on the social medias earlier?
Sure, yeah.
As you know, I'm somewhat of a Deadhead. I like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
And the lead singer, guitarist, Jerry Garcia, late, great, R.I.P., 1995. I read a story where some guy was with him. They were driving around somewhere. He was like, "Oh yeah, well let's just go get something out of the trunk." And he opens the trunk, and there were 2 AK-47s in there. And Grateful Dead, they're known for being peaceful as all heck type of thing.
Peace and love, baby.
All day. And the guy, I can't remember his name, but he's like, "Jerry, what are you doing? Why do you have 2 AK-47s in your trunk?" And his response, simply, in, I don't know, the most hoodlum way you could put it, was kind of, "California's about to make them illegal. So naturally I said I had to have 2 of them."
Okay.
So, I mean, he just wanted them because they were illegal.
Right.
But not for any reason aside from that. I mean, but I just think it's rather interesting. Quite something.
I understand the reason why the Second Amendment exists.
For sure.
The first 10 rights, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments are literally designed to protect the citizen from an oppressive government. That's the whole premise. So the Second Amendment, if I remember the wording correctly, the thing that kills me, why they ruled it as an individual right, the words in the Second Amendment literally say, for the purposes of a well-regulated militia. And the court inflated that to say that it's an individual right to own a gun for the purposes of the militia, not the guns are for the purposes of the militia, vice versa. Like, they're adding like an extra layer to it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Whatever. Laws are semantics, and the court is, the way that these men and women skew the law is fascinating sometimes. But that's DC versus Heller. That's for a conversation for another day. The next one is bigly huge. This one really changed the game for a lot of people in the United States. I would argue it's probably one of the most important cases in the history of the court, and that is National Federation of Independent Business versus Sibelius.
Okay.
This was in 2012. If you were to think 2012, what was happening in 2012? Who was president?
Was that Bush? What was 2012?
After Bush.
I don't remember everything. Who?
Obama.
Ah.
Obama was president, and he was trying to do one thing, generally. I mean, he was president doing more than one thing.
War?
But his big, But his big thing was healthcare.
Yes.
Obamacare, baby.
Beast.
So this case essentially upheld the Affordable Care Act and allowed it to exist. So the Affordable Care Act was signed in 2010, I believe.
Okay.
It was met with a gaggle of lawsuits, too many to count, because obviously, insurance companies, there were financial interests that didn't want it to exist. So be it. And this is when Roberts was fascinating, became a swing vote a little bit, because Roberts, the court at this time was 5-4 conservative. And Roberts sided with the liberals
Really?
to uphold the law.
Beast.
Yeah, which is very surprising. Or wait,
Wait.
I might be thinking of a different case. Doesn't matter. We still have it. We still have healthcare. Whatever. I'm not
a fun fact.
Yeah, hit me with a fun fact.
All right. Are you familiar with the Myra Clark Gaines litigation?
Myra Clark Gaines. No,
Really? You sure?
I am.
This is a big one.
I'm positive.
You know why it's a big one?
Why?
It's the longest, dude. The longest case in U.S. history. It spanned over 50 years.
Myra Gaines.
The Myra Gaines litigation.
Okay.
Myra Clark Gaines, excuse me.
Myra Clark Gaines.
And, well, it began around 1834, and it didn't conclude until 1889.
And what was this about?
It was about land. It was a land
dispute?
litigation. Yeah, land dispute type of thing. So, which is, it's crazy that it took him 50 years to resolve the land dispute.
Yeah, that just seems like something got lost in a file somewhere.
I would love to be the lawyer on that case. You get a 50-year.
Oh,
50
if you get paid for all
years
that,
of pay, one job.
maybe.
One job. That's crazy.
It's a lot of billing hours.
That's 50 years.
It's a lot of billing hours.
Oh, I feel like the lawyers on both sides, they must have just been like, let's tell them we're still arguing type of thing.
Sure, I don't know.
I'm just saying.
Well,
I mean,
the law, like, it's tricky in the United States where, like, if you have the money, you can really, like, hold out and force somebody's hand
to run out of money first.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And then the case gets dismissed.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
You think that's what Myra was doing?
Maybe.
Or Clark?
Clark. Yeah, I don't trust Clark.
Well, we might have to look into that a little further at some
There's
point.
probably a documentary somewhere.
I want us to get into the Myra Clark.
Okay.
Yeah, 50 years, there's got to be docs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Big time drama.
Anyway, whatever. Go on with your
Next
cases.
case.
Go on with your
This one
cases.
is very important, bigly huge for everybody in the United States and the world, and it's probably going to get overturned in the next couple of years, and it's so sad. But this one is Obergefell v. Hodges. This was decided in 2015.
Burgahell v. Hodges?
Obergefell. Obergefell
Obergefell
v. Hodges.
Vahadges.
Vahaj. Obergefell.
The Vahaj.
The Visage.
Go ahead.
Which means face in French.
Jeez.
Obergefell, gay man, wanted to be married.
Oh. Very important.
Went to the court, and the court said, sure, you can get married.
Beautiful.
Obergefell v. Hodges, baby.
I love that.
Sad part is about Obergefell is just recently that I think it was like the Southern Baptist Church at like a big congression recently voted to petition the court to overturn Obergefell.
Boo.
And then in Thomas's concurrent opinion of Alito's ruling on Dobbs, which I'll get to in a second, Thomas says that they should look into cases like Obergefell, I believe, and Loving and v. Virginia, which I think is contraception or sodomy or one of the two, and overturn these rulings. Mm-hmm. So gay marriage will become illegal. Gay relationships will become illegal. Gay sex will become illegal.
No way.
Contraception will become illegal. We're backsliding. We could totally get there. And in Thomas's concurring opinion, he said we should reassess those cases. Scary stuff.
That is scary.
But for right now, we got it. I remember when this passed in 2015, and they like lit the rainbow on the White House, and it was a cool moment. I remember I was in the closet at this time because I was a freshman in college.
Yeah.
And
I remember.
Yeah. And I remember I was very happy that day. It was a good day. It was good vibes that day.
Good. W.
Although I didn't come out for like another 8 years or something after that.
Not 8 years.
But a while.
I'll be fully out at a little while, but not 8 years.
8 years. 8 years, doesn't matter. Next on my list of very important cases that have happened in the recent court, in the Roberts Court. Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo. I believe it's Loper Bright Enterprises Incorporated, might be, versus Raimondo is the full name. This one is tricky. This one is like, you really needed to be kind of like a nerd to want to know like what this one was about.
I'm out.
But it's huge. It's like this one is going to actually like change the whole way the government works.
Okay, I'm back in.
So, in 1984, there was a case called Chevron something.
Okay.
I believe that was the name of it. It was decided that when the law is vague, the deference on like the way it should be interpreted goes to the administrative body. So, for example, an oil company is digging and they want to shoot new chemicals in the well. There's a law that says these chemicals need to be approved by X body or whatever. They don't do that. There's something in the law that's very vague and it says like where you're supposed to get these things or whatever.
Okay.
This company would take the EPA to court. And since the law is vague, the court would rule in the EPA's favor, giving them deference because they're the experts, they're the regulators. So, and in theory, the EPA's interest is in the interest of the general public. Yeah. So theirs should trump.
Good.
But in Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo, sorry, I apologize for that long-winded explanation. Chevron deference, it wasn't very good. But anyway, this was overturned. So now courts effectively decide how these laws and regulations should be interpreted. So get ready for a bunch of lawsuits to be filed by corporations against regulatory bodies like the EPA, the FEC, the FCC, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and we just watch as these courts side with big business and corporations are going to run wild. So get ready for dirtier water, dirtier air, more polluted cities. That's what happens when you overturn Chevron deference.
I'm kind of not down. I kind of like the fresh air when I'm out golfing.
You would think, right?
Kind of not
you
down.
You think anybody would like that, except, I don't know, Exxon. But removing Chevron deference, there's this one I probably should highlight in a separate episode because there was a whole campaign essentially that was manufactured by special interest groups, by conservative special interest groups.
Damn.
To overturn Chevron deference. The money that was undisclosed in this case and all the amici. So amici is, or amici, however you want to pronounce it, is like additional documents that outside parties can submit to support additional arguments in court cases.
For sure.
So you're like an expert and you wrote an amici brief for some other case. That's like when you would get used. There's just all the money that was used for those amici briefs that influenced the decision is really fucked because it's all billionaire corporation money. It's all secretly donated.
Those motherfuckers.
And the reason why that exists is because I'm forgetting one of the most fucked up cases, and this is probably the first one that I discuss as like a special episode. Citizens United versus FEC. FEC is the Federal Elections Commission. This was decided in 2010. And this is the reason why we're fucked.
Oh.
Because this decided corporations have a a constitutional right to spend as much money as they want in political elections.
Okay. Don't love that.
The general breakdown is corporations are people, money is speech, corporations' money in politics is their free speech, and it cannot be infringed. Thus, they can do whatever they want. The story behind this one is pretty fascinating. So this one involves like Michael Moore, the documentary creator, Hillary Clinton, this group called Citizens United. There was a whole hoopla about Michael Moore's documentary 2001, what is it? The documentary about Bush, Fahrenheit 9/11.
Yeah.
It was I believe the Bush campaign, I think, litigated in court that having Michael Moore release this movie was against the federal election laws because you're not allowed to do some type of like media work X amount of days before an election or something like that. And this movie came out, but then the FEC was just like, this isn't directly related to his opponent's campaign, so the movie stands, everyone can go watch it, it's fine. And then later on, the Citizens United group that lost the Michael Moore situation was pissed off, so they created Hillary the movie, or like they funded a movie called like Hillary the movie, which was just like a roast of Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God.
And the FEC said that this one's no bueno. You can't release this one because there is some sort of relation between this movie and the campaign, I guess.
Yeah.
And then that is what made its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then that's when it was decided that Citizens United.
Interesting.
So interesting players, interesting people on that one.
Totally.
And then the last one, the most infamous these days that I'd like to talk about, is Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization.
Hit it. Let's go.
This one, you could probably guess what this one's about.
The women.
Period. The women. No, this one overturned Roe versus Wade. So this one started with Mississippi. The state of Mississippi introduced a 6-week abortion ban. I know, Dwayne. I can't believe it either. And this was obviously challenged in the court because it was argued that the 6-week abortion ban went against the ruling in Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
The court decided in Dobbs that the Mississippi law stands and that it's essentially up to the states to determine if abortion is illegal or not.
Yikes.
It's an individual state situation.
Which is crazy.
Which is fucking crazy because now we live in a world where Illinois is a blue oasis for women's reproductive health care in the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's really us and Minnesota. Those are the only ones.
Michigan.
I don't think abortion's legal. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely
it's
is.
illegal in
No,
Michigan.
it's for sure legal in
Yeah,
Michigan.
it's illegal in Michigan.
Fact checked.
But Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri, Kentucky, all Kaputsk.
Right.
Tennessee, all Kaputsk. I believe we're the closest. So it's like, say you live in Florida. I think we're the closest. No, Virginia, Maryland.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but it's just crazy that you can have one right in one state and then you cross state lines and you no longer have that right.
Right.
And it's likely to happen with gay marriage. So it's very possible that as Obergefell gets overruled, your marriage is legal in Illinois, but it's not legal in Indiana.
Crazy.
Who knows what that situation is going to look like.
Really weird.
But that's what the court is signaling, and that's kind of the scary thing. And I just want to, like, my little debrief. So this is the general gist of the Supreme Court, right?
For sure, yeah.
So my general debrief of the court is that the vibes are weird.
Sure.
So the court has an incredible amount of authority only because we trust it, right? The court doesn't have an army. The court doesn't have, I don't know, like a secret Gestapo to enforce its rulings.
They got a bailiff.
The court only works because we accept the ruling. It's only when we stop accepting the Supreme Court then the law essentially starts to crumble.
Right.
And
Fair.
that's a scary thing because as we witnessed Donald Trump literally defy Supreme Court rulings, the most recent example was with the guy who was shipped to El Salvador without due process.
Right.
There's multiple people that have been sent to El Salvador without due process. This guy, Albrego Garcia, is actually coming back. He is being returned to the United States, but he's still going to be in jail because of some law or like they're charging him with something. I forget. But either way, at least he's not going to be in El Salvador. But there's still like 100 other people or so. I don't know the total number, but at least 5.
Totally.
At least 5.
Jesus.
Which is too many.
Wait.
And then you have another situation that's going to get real tricky. Is most recently, like the protests that have been happening, right? Mm-hmm. Have you seen what's been going on in Los Angeles?
I know, but I haven't seen.
Okay.
I know a couple things.
It's being blown. In my opinion, it's being blown out of proportion in the news. Like it's not that crazy. The world is not crumbling. It's not like the George Floyd situation in COVID. It's much more tame. But feeding into the propaganda machine that is the Trump administration, and I believe that they have this idea of implementing martial law, which is essentially just like military rule.
Right. Hate that.
They had sent in the National Guard and the Marines into Los Angeles. You heard about this?
I have, but I don't like it.
Right. It's incredibly fucked, and it's actually criminal. The way that the Trump administration did it, they broke the law.
Of course they did.
And the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, contested this in the courts. The courts sided with Newsom, and he was granted control over the California National Guard again. This has been appealed by the Trump administration. It has to go through some bureaucratic layers before it gets to the Supreme Court, but this is going to be a case that's the Supreme Court reviews soon. So stay tuned on whether or not the president has ultimate authority over state National Guards.
I sure hope not.
Which I think they will say yes, that he does. But I don't know like the total skinny of like how the law broke down in this one. I don't know, like, because sometimes like you'll get like a case will come to the court and it's this like grand issue, right? But actually what's being debated is a interpretation of a sentence, even though it might be like a grand political theory.
For sure.
So I don't know if that's what's going to happen, right? Like the grand theory is like who controls all military forces in the United States, but it might be like actually debating a clause in there that says, you know, the dispatch of soldiers needs to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know. It's something smaller. There's levels to it.
There's always levels.
But that's scary. And that's why I appreciate your parents going out and protesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's scary times. And it's why, like, to think that the president could say, like, you know, he just rounds up the National Guard and sends it up and shoot, or how do I say it? He say like, I don't know, he gets on a kick about gang violence one day or whatever, and he just sends the military to Chicago.
Right.
You know?
Easy.
If the Supreme Court, depending on how they decide that California case, they could make that legal. Like, they could make that a totally fine thing that the president could do.
Please, no.
Which is terrifying. And this kind of goes into, like, a theory in the court that kind of permeated from the Scalia era. That's why, like, Scalia was a very important justice.
Yeah.
Is this idea of the unitary executive theory, which essentially means that all power in the executive branch belongs to the president.
Sure don't.
It doesn't.
Sure
But
don't.
Some people believe that to be true. Do you have any questions about the court? Do you have any...
I don't really have any questions. I mean, there's kind of a lot for me, but like, I really don't. I mean, it just sounds like, you know, Trump's kind of screwing up a lot, and we got to figure that out, and we got to make sure that we keep roadblocking his dumb ideas. And I hope that we don't undo the good things that we've done even more so than we've already started to do, because then we're gonna have to, because then it's a whole process to even begin to start that whole thing back up again. And it's just one of the many things that frustrates me about politics.
Sure.
And it's, ideally the people that tune in, it's not such a difficult topic to handle, but for me, it's just tough. It's just tough for me.
I want to demystify the Supreme Court, right? Like, I feel like that is the branch of government that's understood the least.
Yeah.
Even though it's like everyone knows the Supreme Court's there, right? But
yeah, they just think judge.
But they just think judge, and they
Sure.
don't really take into consideration how things have been ruled or what rulings are, what they mean,
Yeah.
or even so much as like the conduct of the justices. Like these are still people that are susceptible to corruption, like any congressman,
No doubt.
and they have life tenure. And in my opinion, these justices are corrupt as fuck.
No doubt.
Thomas, insanely corrupt. Alito, insanely corrupt. Gorsuch, insanely corrupt. Breyer, who is no longer on the court, Ketanji Brown Jackson took his seat. He was elbow deep with the Pritzkers. So, I want to make. I would personally, because the court is where we're witnessing a lot of these like democratic rollbacks.
Right.
We're witnessing like the overturn of Roe versus Wade, the challenges to the civil rights laws. That's all happening in the court, but nobody pays attention to the fucking court. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about the court first. I think this is an issue that needs to be followed, and I think we need to bring some fuck you politics to the Supreme Court.
Down.
Just my opinion.
I'm down.
So moving forward, I might like throw in a couple Supreme Court cases here and there.
Yeah, I think it should just like.
Do you want
Go ahead.
to... Do you want me to just like teach you stuff, or do you just kind of want to like hear me gab about these things? Like, how do you want to be involved in this? Because like you said, you're not accustomed, or you're not inclined to these types of
Right.
things. How can I get you somewhere?
So, I think what could be a little bit more.
Should I make a game out of it?
No. Don't. I have enough games in my life right now, unless you're looking to play an actual game. But I think that you like. I like the idea of like hitting cases here and there. I think. So for anybody that's tuning into the Tomato Pulpit, you might know that we have a couple other podcasts. Like our Sofa Tomatoes podcast is pretty structured in a loose way.
Yeah, we have a general flow.
Totally. So like it would be cool to have like this week's Supreme Court case.
Okay, like
Type
like
of
a segment type of
segment.
deal?
Yeah, something that where we can I can shift to a case, and then like you could tell me beforehand, and I could either take the time to dive in myself, and then we can kind of have a little bit more of a back and forth, which would obviously be ideal for content and be just for you and me talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine taking a case.
But there's also a chance that I just like don't get to hitting into the case, and you just kind of like feed it to me a little bit more.
Well, right. So I'm thinking like I can bring a case, I can explain it to you, and then just get your thoughts on it.
Sure, yeah, and I'm down with that. But I'd also like the opportunity to dive in beforehand if I want to. And
Okay.
and I could,
Yeah.
I'd like to shock the people once in a while.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Shock and awe, baby.
But I like the idea of hopping into a case, and I think it would be cool, this week's case type of thing, or
Okay.
type of vibe.
So you want that on Tomatoes, not Pulpit?
Hell no, pulpit.
Okay,
I don't
Pulpit.
want that on Tomatoes. I'm just comparing structure to structure.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
So yeah, I dig. I'm down.
Okay. Yeah, I think I will turn this into a segment then.
Yeah, segment it, and then like the episode will be about whatever you want it to be, and then ideally we'll find another, who knows, another segment to add at some point
Totally.
that we like. Or
Yeah, I mean, we're building this out as we go.
Yeah.
I think that I couldn't make that more clear.
no, it's a process, and I like where we're going about it, and I like this week's episode. I thought it was fun. The last fun fact that I have, I just want to throw it out there.
Hit me with it.
And here's the problem with this: is right below it. So I hate to say AI. It says Google AI, and at the last very bottom it says AI responses may include mistakes. For legal advice, consult a professional.
Okay.
Smarter than to cover their asses like that.
Very. Always read the fine print.
The final thing. So you know what? Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. There are 3 finals, and the last 3 final fun random facts that I looked up about the Supreme Court. The first one, the last 3 are Justice Stephen Breyer. You know who this is?
Yeah, this was the guy.
This is newer, right?
This is the guy who's deep with the Pritzkers.
Is known for his lengthy questions during oral
Yes.
arguments.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So I listen to oral argument.
Yeah.
Like for cases that I'm
is that his
interested
thing?
in.
Long questions to fuck with you?
Yes. Long-winded.
Oh, it's a head
Yes.
game with that guy.
Yes.
Oh.
And like, say what you will about Scalia, and like, yeah, Scalia sucks, and he will go down in history as probably one of the worst people to be on the court. But he was a legal juggernaut. He was a very intelligent guy, and he was funny. He had a personality on the court. So like, credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Breyer, very intellectual, very smart, but holy fuck, Steven, finish the sentence.
Yeah. That would kill me.
Yeah.
Somebody who has ADHD, when somebody's giving me a sentence and I'm like, okay, I already finished your sentence, like 5 sentences ago. Oh my god.
Yeah, you and Steven would not go along.
Oh, brutal. The next one is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, a newer justice. I'm sure you're familiar.
Newbie.
You're familiar?
She's our most recent doll.
A very active questioner.
Yes.
That's all it says.
Yes.
This person's questioning.
I love her questioning.
We need to throw some questions out there.
I think Jackson is a well-deserved addition to the court. I think we could do without Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Alito and all the conservatives generally, besides Thomas and Barrett, I'm fine with for the most part. But as questioning goes, she's a good hitter.
For sure.
Yeah, she's a heavy hitter.
And then not to backtrack too much, but going back to kind of like us talking about how we want the podcast to go type of thing, and segment-wise and this and that. If you're tuning in and you have an opinion, you have a thought, shoot us a damn email. Shoot us an email at sofa tomatoes, that's plural, sofa tomatoes pod at gmail.com, and just let us know what you think, what kind of you'd like us to throw in there, because we're kind of learning as we go with this particular pod. And
like, it's a 50-50 dynamic we got here. Like, part of this is for me, and then part of this is for you. Like, I want to make sure it actually makes sense.
Totally. So just something to think about. Let's just, shoot us an email. Don't be scared to do that. I think that could help everybody involved here. And then my final fun fact that I have here, and this is more so for me than the people, it says the, air quotes, highest court in the land is actually a basketball court located on the top floor of the Supreme Court building. Are you familiar with this?
I've heard of this basketball court, yeah.
So it's the highest court in the land as far as I'm concerned. It's a basketball court on top of the Supreme Court.
I know, right?
My goodness.
I don't, like, by elevation, that's obviously can't be the highest basketball court. Because DC is a literal swamp.
Yeah, but it's all about the Supreme Court.
Right.
It's the double, who I want to know, and, might be a little off topic, who's reffing these games?
I don't know. It's a
Who's
good question.
Who's the judge? Who's the person?
Maybe like
I would like to know. I'd like to know who they trust within the judges to judge the basketball. Just something to think about.
Yeah, a kind of an unspoken rule between the justices is like, so they obviously have to sit down and discuss cases, and the most junior justice is like the coffee bitch.
I'm looking at some pictures of this indoor court. Doesn't look too fancy.
No, it's an old building.
Yeah, it looks very standard.
Yeah, the Supreme Court's an old building, but not as old as the House and not as old as the White House. It was built after those two. I believe it was like the early 1900s. The Supreme Court finally got its own residence. Before that, it was just kind of like bumming around DC.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Well, yeah, you would think like literally they're the third in this equal branches of government, and yet y'all don't have your own building. Doesn't sound so equal to me.
This basketball court's on the 5th floor of the building, though.
I don't know how many stories are in the court.
Doesn't matter. 5th floor. Pretty cool. Anywho, I don't have any other fun facts for you for now.
Fun fact, no cameras are allowed in the court.
Yeah, that's
That's
kind
why
of fun.
oral argument is strictly through like audio.
Totally, I dig that.
That's all the fun facts I got right now.
Good shit. I'm chilling. Cool.
Cool. Well, thanks so much. This has been a tomato pulpit about the general gist and Jimmy of a Supreme Court in the United States. I'm sure y'all, if you're tuning in from other countries, have other Supreme Courts that do fun things. Let's hear about it. Let's hear about your fun things.
Yeah. Tell us why you're better than us.
I think Ireland, y'all got a good one because your court decided that it was a genocide in Palestine, in Gaza. So like, kudos to you. You guys got a good head on your shoulders.
Shout out.
South Africa, I think you also have a decent head on your shoulders, at least in terms of international court. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you later. Goodbye. I love you.
Toodles.